Right, this video is going to look into the volume question. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that you also have the note sheets with you. The very first page of the note sheet says notes at the top, but it says grade 8 mathematics reference sheet. And really what is going to help you on this one is down here in this section, the cylinder, the sphere, and the cone. Those are the formulas for the volume. So if you think back to 7th grade when you did volume, you did mostly with rectangular prisms, so you use the V equals capital B times H, the area of the base times the height. Our shapes are getting a little bit more complex in 8th grade, so our formulas are a little bit more specific here. So a cylinder is what the first shape is in our notes here, right? It's kind of like a soup can. Or like a Pringles container, it's going to be that cylinder. So what I'm going to need is the formula for the volume of a cylinder. So the cylinder, the volume is equal to pi, this symbol that's this really crazy decimal number that we can't really write, so we use the symbol, and I multiply that by the radius squared times the height. So step 1 for this is going to be to write that formula out. Volume, copying it right from there, I'm just adding in the dots for multiplication. Pi times the radius squared times the height. So now it's just a matter of plugging in for the radius and for the height. Pi is an actual number, right? Pi, P-I, not P-I-E. It's an actual number, but we use a symbol to represent it. So the radius of a circle, the circle has two different parts to it. You can either have a diameter that goes from one edge to the other, so that's a diameter, and then you also have a radius, which goes from the center to the edge. So in this picture, they're giving you the radius because they're going from the center to the edge. If we had given you the diameter going all the way across, the radius, if you have the diameter, you take the diameter and divide it by 2, and that'll give you the radius's value. So for this one, if I help you start, let's see, the volume would be pi times 7 squared times the height. So again, at this point, you can go through the calculation pieces. We're just going to keep pi, right? Leave pi in your answer, means that symbol should be in there. So I'm going to multiply the digits and then just keep pi in my answer. So pi is going to be multiplied by 7 squared times 10. So I'm just typing that into my calculator and I get 490. So my answer would be pi times 490. But if we think about math and the standard way that we write math, usually the coefficient goes first. So I'm just going to go one more step and say pi volume is equal to 490 pi, and then my units would be inches cubed. Not this number cubed, but the units are cubed for the volume. And then if I go down to the next one here, so this time we don't have a cylinder. Okay? This shape would be a cone. So think about like a traffic cone, some of those sugar cone for ice cream. So if I go back to my reference sheet, this time the cone, if you look at it, cone and cylinder have almost the same formula. The cones just have this 1/3 in there because probably shortly after we get back to school, we'll do a little experiment where I have a cylinder and a cone that are the same height, and the circle that I use for them is the same. And we look at how many times it takes me to fill this cone and then dump it into the cylinder, and it takes 3 times. So the volume of a cone is going to be 1/3 the time times pi times radius squared times the height. Basically, it would take 1 out of 3 to fill that same cylinder. So again, this time they're telling me the diameter is 18, but I want the radius. So if the diameter is 18, the radius is the diameter divided by 2, so the radius is going to be worth 9. So I'm going to start you this one off and let you finish it up. But volume is going to be 1/3 times pi, and then I'm going to use 9 for the radius, square it, and then the height, how tall is the cylinder? It's going to, or sorry, the cone, it would be 16. So I'm going to stop there for this one and say you can finish this one up. Now number 3, I think something happened here because there's no picture in it. It just says the diameter is 9 inches. I don't know if we're dealing with a cone, a sphere, or a cylinder again. So I'm going to say that because I think your page, there's like a big gap at the top, so the bottom of this got cut off. So number 3, we're going to say cross that one out. And that'll be your volume stuff.